Hey football freaks, it's Alan. Just want to take the time here to let you know that this week's show is brought to you by Pretty Easy Podcasts. If you're thinking of doing a podcast, there is a way for you to do a show without having to become an audio editing master, a production whiz kid. You can just go to prettyeasypodcast.com and get your own personal producer at a very, very low cost. That'll be someone who can guide you, assist you, help you out with whatever you need to get your podcast off the ground. If you have an idea or a topic you want to talk about on a weekly basis, a daily basis, it doesn't matter. Go to prettyeasypodcast.com. Get started today. Take some of the hassle of starting a podcast off your shoulders and let the audio professionals at Pretty Easy Podcasts help you out. Pretty Easy Podcasts is where podcasters go to get their shows recorded and posted with a complete podcast studio at their disposal. Record from home or your office or anywhere, really. Pretty Easy Podcasts caters to your schedule and gives you a producer for your show at your beck and call. Go to prettyeasypodcasts.com, sign up today, be heard, have some fun podcasting, and don't let a lack of technical knowledge hold you back. Go to prettyeasypodcasts.com today.
This is the future. This is not the past.
The new XFL will kick off in 2020.
If you smell what the XFL is cooking.
It's still football, but it's professional football reimagined.
This is our moment, our story to tell. This is history begun.
This is the XFL.
Welcome, football fans. This is the week of November 17th, 2019. This is the road to 2020, and this is the XFL show. I'm Alan.
I'm Jake.
And I'm Bryant.
This week, the league hashed out some important details during a little get-together at the Stamford headquarters. This is episode 96. Talking League Summit. And a whole lot of great content and news coming about the XFL this week that we got to sink our teeth into. Actually, I would say it might be the first week where we're leaving a ton of stuff just, on the table here that we just don't have enough time to get into. Like, I don't know how much time we have to break down the pickup game between Cardell Jones and Pep Hamilton.
I think we have enough time for that at least.
But there's a lot of fun stuff coming out of the XFL's headquarters this week that we're going to talk about. It is another week. It is a week where we are only 12 weeks away from kickoff in 2020. And what a time to be alive with the league summit this week, Brian. A lot to sink our teeth into there.
2 shows, Alan. I've been telling you this for a couple weeks now. It might be necessary because with all the information that's coming out on a daily basis now, we might have to revert back to 2 shows. We never went to 2 shows. We might have to go to 2 shows. But yes, the league summit, all coaches in one spot at one time. A great time to be had, I think, at the league offices this week. I was kind of bummed that I wasn't actually there for it.
Brian, can you report on any fist fights between the coaches?
No fist fights.
Nothing confirmed.
No. I'm pretty sure I can confirm that nothing like that happened at the league offices.
Did you tell Coach Moss to behave?
8 great minds getting together to try to come up with the best possible scenarios for the XFL in 2020.
So we'll get all up in that league summit where the coaches were all in Stamford and a lot of stuff was talked about. We'll get into all of that today. We also are going to talk about XFL.com as a place you need to be going to. I mean, that has been a complete 180 and then a 360 and then another 180, Jake, in terms of what you get out of XFL.com these days, especially when you think about where we were about a year ago on the website, the league's official website. We're going to talk a whole lot about that and also a very interesting comment made on a radio interview by one of the voices of the league from ESPN. Steve Levy did some radio talking XFL this week, and a really interesting quote we want to sink our teeth into this week with regards to the XFL just being good for football. We're going to talk about all of this today, and we'll have a good, crisp interview. We have yet to put it out on a podcast, an interview with the league president, Jeffrey Pollack, that we had during the draft. Bryant and I sat down with the league president, and this interview has been up on our YouTube channel for a while, but we never put it into the podcast. And for anybody who missed it, I think as a fan, this is one that fans absolutely need to listen to, Bryant, because we talked a lot about how this is going to be a different league when it comes to fan interaction and the league being a very different kind of professional sports league when it comes to how it treats the fans. This interview was really, really fun, and it's been on our YouTube channel, but now we get to roll it out on the podcast for anybody who missed it.
Yeah, it really is an informative interview. I sat back and spoke with Jeffrey Pollack as a fan. I think you did too, Alan. We really were just kind of engaged on the different things that would be becoming available for people like you and I when we go to games, when we're at games, for other people around for season ticket holders, people like that. I think it's going to be a great, some great information, some great perspective. I think you can also really take a listen from basically the man that is controlling all the presidents in a way that really isn't controlling them, because he's letting them do what they want. It was a really interesting interview. I really liked it. It gives you some perspective, so make sure you stick around and check that out.
Oh, I cannot wait to play it and listen to it again, and that'll be our good, crisp interview of the week. It's going to be a lot of fun on today's program. Remember, at XFL Show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can go to the YouTube channel, and the number to call, 724-565-4XFL. Call the voicemail, leave us a line, and maybe we'll even play it on the air. On the show. We're not on the air. Podcasts aren't on the air, are they, Jake? What's the technical term?
They're in the cloud. So
they can be on your air, I guess.
Just don't spit hot air. Actually, you can. Say whatever you want. The XFL fan line is for you. 724-565-4XFL. And last week's show, stemming from that, we've got a lot to live up to, because the hype about the XFL, the LA Wildcats in particular, is real. Thanks to everybody for listening to the interview with Coach Moss, for the feedback, and I'm still doing burpees, Bryant. That was so much fun, and we look forward to more great interviews with some XFL head coaches.
Coach Moss is a great man and a great friend, and he did some great hyping for the XFL Wildcats, the Los Angeles Wildcats, last week.
Stands for excellence.
Go back and check that interview out. It was a great energizer. If you ever need some motivation in the morning, I feel like that's what you can listen to. Jake, you got your first crack at it, just as live with the rest of the listeners, and you can attest to how much energy that man brings to just a microphone. Can you imagine what he's going to be doing on the field?
Oh, very intense. And Brian, I know some other people in the neck of your woods out there, and they were telling me that you were picking up part-time jobs as crossing guards, or trying to crowd control people to get ready for the season. Can you confirm or deny any of that?
See, now I don't feel like we're closer than ever to the season, because your sources are just way off this week. Last week,
I don't know about that.
This week, I don't know. I mean,
my source is a doctor. He doesn't lie.
You know what? The truth is I stopped on the 5 freeway and tried to stop a semi with my bare hands, and I failed miserably. I am reporting now from a hospital.
Yeah, I would advise against that. I'd advise against that, Brian. You need to make sure you're in good health. We've got the league's kicking off in 12 weeks. And when you do your burpees, make sure you got plenty of elbow room and space, like Coach Moss did on his tweet he put out. Also on last week's show, we got to keep the hype going from that one. That was a really fun one. Maybe this will get us really going, because the poll we put out, we have some results. We asked you, the football freaks of America and the world, which XFL team starting quarterback job do you think is most up for grabs? A lot of people voted on this one. I know I changed my vote a few times. What did everyone say? Which team was it, Bryant? We've gave 4 distinct scenarios for different teams that we really see a lot of opportunity for different quarterbacks to maybe win the job. What do people think?
Yeah, I think we had some locked positions, right? We feel like Dallas, DC, and LA are pretty much a lock. New York might be the only question mark, but I still think Matt McGloin is going to start out there in New York. We gave the 4 teams of Seattle, Tampa Bay, St. Louis, and Houston. We basically said which quarterback position was most up for grabs. And with 40% of the vote, Houston Roughnecks, which, as you know, took Connor Cook at number 2 overall in the draft. as the team with that most likely has the QB position up for grabs.
There you go, Houston. I thought they would win, but I actually changed my vote to Tampa. I don't know. It was probably because I was watching some Taylor Cornelius highlights, and I got really excited that Vince sent me some links, and that swayed my vote. What did you vote, Bryant? Did you cast your official vote?
My original vote was for Houston, but again, that's just more. I'm going to stick with Houston, but I feel like the other battle that I'm going to see is in St. Louis,
and I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure my brain is working this week because I do recall Jake saying Houston as well. Or am I crazy, Jake?
No, you're right. That's what I did mention last week on the show, and we were discussing it. I hope we didn't sway any of the voters, or maybe they're just seeing the same signs that we are taking.
I hope we didn't sway anybody.
So Jake,
how would we know any better than anybody? We're all speculating on these. They haven't even hit minicamp yet.
Well, Jake hasn't. Maybe Jake needs to reach out to his sources, excuse me, and figure out maybe what the quarterback rooms are like. Alan, if I could read some of the comments that we saw on Twitter, I just want to give some feedback. Some people were saying that it's a brand new league, so in theory, all positions are up for grabs. I don't know if I really stand by that one too much.
I think a coach will tell you that. I think these coaches will say we love Landry Jones, but I know he's got to go in there and win the team over. I'm sure they're going to say that, but yeah, I think that all the jobs theoretically are up for grabs, but I think for sure there are some that are pretty much locked in. Barring some sort of crazy event like some other big name quarterback gets signed or God forbid injury.
Well, the other thing, and Jake, maybe I'll throw this one to you, is someone had alluded to the fact that these quarterbacks that were assigned to these teams perhaps are getting paid more than the drafted quarterbacks, so that defaults them into that starting position. I don't think that at all, especially if you're talking about putting the best possible product onto the field.
Yeah, I don't have that information, but I just know that, whenever you get a big graphic on XFL.com saying, this quarterback is assigned to this club, I think by default that tells you that the league intends that individual to start on week 1 for them.
Theoretically, it's going to be super fun to watch. I'm telling you,
but it's still up to the coaches,
and that might make it. I mean, does that make these kind of quarterback competitions even more interesting than like a regular old NFL quarterback competition where even the backups make it a ton of money? If is it that big of a difference? We'll see. But I think those 4 teams you put on the poll, Bryant, definitely there's some doubt. Even barring the fact that guys are getting paid more, who knows how that situation will go, especially in Houston, which I think we all expected to win. But fun poll question there. Hopefully we'll come up with another one here throughout the conversation on this week's show.
Where football goes to be reborn. Where football goes to be reimagined. Where one goes to find more of what they need. A place with endless possibilities and hidden gems. A place where only one's limitations determine how much is explored. A place that gives you all the football you can handle and more. This is the XFL Show's Patreon, guiding you to February 2020.
Let's get into this week's conversation, starting with some really, really fun stuff coming from league headquarters, both news-wise and on the interwebs, because XFL.com is like a completely different website. We need to discuss it. Let's start it off in this week's Cover 2.
Going for 2. Go for 2 and the lead.
All right, XFL.com, I think we could all agree, a year ago from today, Jake, was a place where, it was a website.
Yeah, it was in the making, I guess you can say. But do you remember just the way we were gushing over stick figures? You
Yeah.
know,
Oh yes.
and
I
there
remember
is
it like it
just
was yesterday.
and there is just so much more on there. Like you said, you got pickup basketball games, you got old timey photos, you got 1 in a million catches, you got head coaches on here, feel good stories, and even this is the XFL show.
Yeah, we're up on there a few times, and the fact that you bring up the stick figures is great. That was like the first real big video the league put out at all on social media, right? Short little
Don't even
video.
remember that one.
Talk
What was
joke.
that one?
It was like poking fun at the Super Bowl. It was like
It
during.
was like right before the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Remember his little black and white stick figure videos?
Yeah.
Well, I'm
on
digging through
Twitter.
our archives here, and I'm seeing that a year ago our show was about optimum scouting. So a big moment in the XFL's history. But you're right, nothing really on the website a year ago. So
We would
see
go
what's happening
nuts
now
for
is
15-second videos. We'd do whole episodes on, all right, let's break down each second. But now XFL.com is chock full of cool stuff, fun videos for you to learn more about players, coaches, your team for whatever team you're going to be rooting for. I mean, I was on there and I was like, I got lost in some Tampa Bay Vipers stuff they have on there because they do a roundup kind of all the social media from all the teams, which is getting just more and more entertaining. All sorts of fun stuff, bizarre stuff too. Did you see the Battlehawks put out like some sort of it looked like a spaceship flying through St. Louis? I don't know what that was about, but the Vipers put out a cool thing with Aaron Murray, their quarterback, and Mark Trestman doing, a Q&A type thing, and Aaron Murray having fun with hashtags. Like, I get lost in that kind of stuff, and I think the fact that the league's website is now, it feels like an official league website, a place where you can go and kind of get lost and have a lot of fun. It's almost like a football theme park, and I really think fans need to be jumping on XFL.com now, Jake. It's officially the official place to be to follow the XFL.
Now, let me ask you this. Did your fiance have to yell at you to get off XFL.com and do your homework?
She did. Yeah, that's
get over here before your dinner gets stone cold.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's all sorts of fun to be had on XFL.com. I'd say pretty much it's essential right now if you're following the progress of the league. Like if you've been following our show for 96 episodes, you need to be going to XFL.com now each and every single day if you're diving deep into it like we do. I mean, this is now a place to be. You have to if you want to know what's going on with the league, you go straight to the source now, and it's got all sorts of fun, awesome stuff there. Reddit and the other sites are fun, but when the league is given access the way they are to fans, you want the official website to be what it is growing to be right now, Brian.
Do you guys remember when you would go on XFL.com and then that video would automatically play as soon as you first got onto the website?
Well, yes, because I had to. It actually caused me to do a lot of editing within the show. Yeah, I remember those days.
You're right, though. All those other websites are still great. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of great information out there, a lot of perspective from different people and sources and whatnot. But the XFL is really making this a platform for you to go and really learn as much as you can about the league, about the players, about coaches, about people's driveways. There's a great thing about Pat McAfee out there, interviews with the president, Heather Brooks Carrots, as well as his name escapes me, from Ryan Gustafson. I'm going to get really good at these names. I promise one day where I'm going to get them all right off the bat. But Ryan Gustafson in Seattle, he had a sit-down interview with Oliver Luck, which is really good. So it's really becoming a great source for videos, for articles. Don't forget about their shop. That seems to be growing every single week. Really a lot of great information on there. So go check it out, Alan, because I bought my dad a tablet for Christmas last year, and it's like he discovered the internet and he's like always on it now for the very first time in his life. This is what XFL.com is for me. I can go on here and get lost for hours.
I can buy shoes on my computer.
You could buy.
I'll tell you guys offline what kind of stories I have about him discovering Google too. It's been great.
You could buy a DC Defenders hat if you want, Jake. I know you're still deciding what team you're going to root for. I mean, yeah, the website's got cool stuff. But besides the shop, though, I mean, I'm just like fascinated with how they're approaching like the around the XFL stuff. They're kind of doing roundups of news with anybody. Like I watched a really cool local TV interview Jonathan Hayes did right there on XFL.com. They're kind of compiling everything related to the league, and it's kind of becoming a one-stop shop. And, of course, you've got the formal press releases there as well, which are very important. And there was one this week, the partnership with Champion Data, Bryant, that, we were at the draft and we saw the Champion Data people there from Australia were there at the draft, and they're here now officially partnering up with the league. And their company is partially owned by the Aussie Rules Football League, Jake. So that means that there's kind of a link between the XFL and the AFL in Australia. And I don't know if you know about those guys, but those players in Aussie Rules Football, like, they're legit athletes, like athletes. I mean, maybe there'll be a pipeline of awesome Aussie players to the XFL. Who knows? But
maybe a talent trade or something.
Yeah. But this partnership is super exciting. I know the league is super crazy pumped because this is like a legit entity in terms of working hand in hand with leagues to create like really, really awesome ways for fans to interact with stats and really cool ways for the league to just put everything out there on display in terms of what's going on the field. And it's going to be fascinating, I think, to see how they work with the teams and how, everybody's able to interact. And of course, eventually, the fun thing, fantasy XFL, hopefully. So I'm sure this will play a part of that. And according to the press release, the partnership will provide the league with in-depth statistical collection and reporting, advanced research and analysis, and editorial services. So Champion Data is going to be a key partner in terms of helping you know what's going on by the numbers in the XFL, which is so important to so many people who, just like Bryant, only believe the numbers when it comes to football for some reason.
That's not 100% true on my side, is it? I do look at the eye test too.
Listen, if you were going by the eye test, you would have known the Rams would have lost to the Steelers, but you didn't expect that to happen.
If you go listen to our This Is Not the XFL show on Twitter, on Patreon, you would know that everyone here picked the Rams to beat the Steelers. But anyway, look, I love statistics. I love that they're going to give us, it seems like, some access to these statistics as fans. It's a great part of the game because you do want to know who's the all-time rushing leader in college, and now are they the all-time leading rusher in the XFL? You're going to see all these statistics in probably a different way that you're not used to. It's going to be very innovative, I think, and this is a good partnership for the XFL, and hopefully moving forward, they can come up with other ways to get fans' engagement into these statistics and make them available, because if fantasy football becomes a thing here in the XFL, statistics are huge for that type of stuff. So if you can get exports and things like that for fans to dive into themselves, I hope that's what they're able to provide with this new partnership.
Absolutely. And, when people, especially we're talking about the in-stadium experience, they are going to be working with all the venues, Champion Data. And when you go to an XFL football game, you want to totally immerse yourself in what's going on the field and all the extra incentives the league's going to be giving fans to go out to the stadiums to watch these games, and Champion Data is going to be all a part of that experience too. So this is a very important partnership. A press release put out. If you want to learn more about it, it's on XFL.com, which is awesome. Like everything related to the league, there's no more in the dark. There's no more searching for radio interviews, Jake. It's all there. I feel like this is like really a low key, as the cool kids say, important moment this week where it just clicked. XFL.com has it all. There's no more, excavating information, at least for our show or for normal fans who are interested in the XFL. There you go. XFL.com is where it's at.
Yeah, and it's going to make our lives a lot easier too when we're putting this show together. I'll tell you that much. So XFL.com is really just somewhere to thank you. Yes. XFL.com.
Yeah. I would probably say selfishly, that's the best part. The best part about it for sure. Trying to cover the league and talk about it each week. Yeah, the website's making it that much easier, but even more so as a fan, that much more fun. Second part of our cover two this week, the summit in Stamford. This is really cool, and was, this was a behind kind of closed doors, a very important league event, but not in, like a draft event or anything, Jake. This was, kind of team building, team, getting on the same page also in terms of some big things that are out in front of the league as a business. And for the first time, all the head coaches in the league were at headquarters at the same time. This, I would say, was kind of the equivalent of the NFL's spring meetings, is what it sounds like from what we've heard from sources and everything that went down at the summit in Stamford, is what we're tagging it as here on the show. All the head coaches were there, and a lot went down in terms of getting ready for all the next big steps for the league. A lot to sink our teeth into here. First thing, Jake, all the head coaches were there. Do you think any fisticuffs were thrown? Probably not. No.
Well, that's what I wanted to know. Rivalries starting early, at least inside the great state of Texas.
What's with your team saying that on Twitter about my team?
You're right. It could stop, or maybe these coaches are going to go back and they're going to, they're eventually going to try to hype up their players in camp and tell them about, that somebody else was bad mouthing their squad, and that, our offensive line weighs more than yours, or something like that. So, rivalries can seemingly start anywhere, but in all fairness, this was probably very civilized. A lot of these, I would have to guess that some of these individuals have never met in person with each other before. And I think the league would also, I bet the rule book is basically set in stone right now, but they're probably just getting some other suggestions, maybe some feelers about maybe drastic rule changes that they're looking to do differently from leagues that these guys have coached in before.
So, having gotten to go to the draft, Brian and I met a lot of people I would call friends. They're league sources, but there are friends at the league who, Brian, during this week with all the coaches there and all the talk about the rule book that happened, people were texting us. I touched the rule book today, because we were like some of the first people to see the rule book, at least just the cover. And now it was a very big part of what went down in Stamford this week.
Well, I will say this. Yes, this might be the first time. And also, I like the Stamford Summit. Maybe we'll talk about that off air. But I will say that although this is the first time all the coaches met in one place at one time in Stamford, I guarantee this is not the first time that these 8 men have not talked about this entire scenario for the first,
all together.
All together on a conference call.
Yeah, they have gotten together before. They have, but in terms of being at the official league headquarters, though, that had never happened until this week.
You think they all rented a cabin in Northern California for a weekend?
I'm telling you, Oliver Luck's dining room table in Houston I'm sure is what it is. No, this is the first time they probably all got together. The rule book seems to be almost complete. They're dotting their I's and they're crossing their T's really at the very end with this rule book. So I can feel it. It's coming out. People are holding it in their hands, Alan. We saw it in our presence. It's happening. Just give it a little bit more time and it'll be here for all of us to enjoy. I guess we're going to enjoy with like a cup of cocoa over our Christmas trees, probably is what we're going to, under our Christmas trees. Oh, maybe that's what I'll do. I'll wrap mine and put it under my Christmas tree and then open it Christmas morning.
I'm excited for Jake to read it like he's doing the night before Christmas poem. It's going to be great.
Brian, I don't know how you have that strength to wait.
Well, you want to hear some more of what went down with the rule book, because it was talked about at this summit in Stamford, and not only were the coaches there and all league officials, football operations, everybody, but also Dean Blandino, who's going to be involved in the league in terms of the rules. Obviously was, head of referees for the NFL, works with Fox now, was at the Stamford Summit discussing rules with coaches and football ops this week. And consider this week was kind of like a very important final get together before these important things like the rule book officially being, stamped as the rule book for the first season. And of course, before other key things like mini camps being announced. And speaking of that, mini camps, we can also confirm that right now, that the location and dates officially for mini camps will be made public on Monday after the show drops. So football Sundays, the show drops. So if you're listening on a football Sunday, on Monday, tomorrow, you will know where mini camps are, what dates they are. And the league was also during this summit kind of hashing out the details of what that will be like, what's going to go down in terms of the teams and the the more boring stuff fans don't care about, and like players becoming a part of the team officially, but also fans themselves was discussed this week. And if you're a fan and you planned on hitting the mini camp, if you go, expect a different experience. If you plan on attending, the league this week was discussing that, Bryant. They're going to make these mini camps, training camps for the XFL more than just fans just walking around a field as players train. This is going to be a fun time where fans are going to go there and see some cool stuff.
Yeah, Alan, I've talked to some sources as well at the LA office, and it's been it's going to be a great interaction for fans, right? This is not just something that people are going to read about or maybe hear about on ESPN or anything like that. You're going to get the actual ability to go to these things and interact with these teams. I mean, I've talked about how I go to these meet and greets at local bars and stuff, and I joke and I kid about Winston Moss being one of my good friends, but I literally talk to that man as if he's a friend when I'm there at those things. So, if you go to these mini camps that you're going to get unprecedented access to these players, coaches, and just different things that you're not expecting from fans. So the huge announcement coming this week about locations and what to expect is really something that's going to be geared towards the fans. Yes, it's going to help put a great football team on the field, but on the other side of the coin, it's going to also help fans get be interactive with these teams going into the season in 2020.
Yeah, so we really anticipating next week for that announcement, and next week's show, obviously a lot of reaction to that and talking about that. Also, during the summit in Stamford, Jake, there was a Q&A. I don't know if you saw, they posted some of it on social media. It was pretty entertaining stuff, like Bob Stoops talking about his wife forcing him back out into the workforce. But
I can't stand you. Get out there and get a job.
But also, reports from these Q&As and also from the coaches being there, talking about the rules and everything going on. Friends at the league, Jake, were saying that the coaches seem to be pretty excited with what's planned for overtime and the kickoffs and the rule books in general, and how they're kind of carving it out to be a little bit different, to reimagine the game. When you get that rule book officially posted, do you anticipate your reaction overall being positive? Because you're the negative Nelly on the show. I'm most interested in your reaction when that thing comes out. What are you preparing yourself for?
I think I'm going to be pleased with it, as long as we don't have overtimes, where you can be scoring 4, 5, or 6 points, or whatever it is. I'm going to be happy. Kickoffs, I don't think there's much different you can change about that. At least we're going to have kickoffs, and that's going to be good enough for me.
I don't know about – I don't want kickoffs. I want kick returns.
Kickoff returns.
Yes.
Well, okay, well, they're going to have kikkoffs so they can be returned.
I guess we're splitting hairs.
I'll say this. I'll ask the question. I asked because kickoff rules have been out there for a while, and I asked somebody what happens on touchbacks? What are we going to do on touchbacks? And the response I got was, we are not going to have touchbacks. I was like, I looked, and they're like, well, I guess rarely, but they're not expecting touchbacks or expecting returns. Jake, I don't know how you cannot be excited for that play. You're brushing it off. You're to the side like it's just nothing. Kickoffs is whatever. It's a kickoff return that we're going to get back in football.
No, I'm happy that there are going to be kickoff and kick returns. I am. What else could you say? I don't want to see somebody taking a knee.
It's not what you could say, Jake. It's how you say it. It's all good though. Maybe we shouldn't have Jake read the rule book. He's just gonna be like, kickoffs, kill him from the 25. Overtime is 3 snaps from the 30-yard line.
I had a big bowl of chili for supper. I'm a little heavy right now.
All right. Let's end our talk about the summit in Stamford with this. This is totally speculative. But with everybody there, a lot was talked about the rules, mini camps, all the next big steps. But if you had to bet, Jake, on one coach being a pain in the neck, kind of like you, and fighting against something in this rule book, which coach do you think it would be?
Well, I think Coach Moss, no disrespect, would be the most vocal. He has the potential to be the loudest, but I also think Coach Stoops, just with his pedigree, he holds, a special aura where if he doesn't like anything, perhaps he was fighting back against that the most. But I don't think there was a shouting match or anybody stood up from their chair for any of them.
I could, I don't know. Like he didn't. He seemed like to take it all in stride. We talked to him, Bryant, but I feel like a 25-second play clock for a guy like Mark Trestman. I would speak up if I'm an offensive guy. Like, how am I supposed to have my quarterback call audibles? What are we doing about this? I don't know. I don't think any of these coaches are gonna object to some of the rules we've heard about. Apparently, they're all on the same page. But I would guess one of the offensive guys is probably got to be thinking about how fast this game is going to be played and whether or not it's too fast for their offense, because there's going to be a lot asked of these quarterbacks, especially in terms of running the offenses.
I'll second that in the sense that I don't think anybody's really going to throw up that big of a fit for any of these rules, but I could definitely see Coach Moss saying something just to spite the other coaches and have a little fun with this, to antagonize these coaches just a little bit. It's like the 12th juror that says not guilty because he wants to enjoy his lunch. It's what Moss is doing. He's going to disagree with something just to rile up the coaches just that much. Is probably what I see the most out of.
I could picture Winston Moss like arguing in favor of hand checking for defensive backs. What about my defensive backs? Well, are they going to be able to, get physical with these receivers? Actually, I could see that argument.
Holding is an automatic ejection.
Coming out of the summit in Stamford, a fun tweet, and we love HBK. Heather Brooks Carrott's one of our favorites. We love Ryan Gustafson for what he's doing on Facebook and with his Q&A sessions, his AMAs for the Seattle Dragons. But Kurt Hunziker of the St. Louis Battlehawks might have the best Twitter game of all the league executives, of the team executives. Put out a picture of everybody, all the coaches and everyone at the headquarters in Connecticut, and said, quote, "Captain, amazing week at XFL HQ. The next few weeks will be so much fun, especially the redacted, the incredibly redacted, and of course, what everyone has been wanting, the redacted. Also, I'm a foot shorter than Coach Hayes." I mean, that is like top notch. That's great. That is very good Twitter right there by President Hunziker.
It's almost like a Mad Libs, except it's not fun at all.
Oh, it's a lot of fun. Jake, if it weren't for XFL.com and all the news out, this entire episode a year ago would have just been decrypting Kurt Hunziker's tweet.
Which doesn't sound like a bad idea, for a different episode.
Well, the team president of the Battlehawks is a lot of fun on Twitter. I recommend him as a follow, Bryant. I know you have issues with that team already, but you should be following the dude. He's awesome.
Yeah, I'm following you now, and I just thought of something really cool. I looked at this picture that you're talking about, and the coolest part of this picture right now, and maybe a little selfish here, is that I know exactly where they're standing in the office. Like, I can picture it in my mind.
You've been in the office. You have, yeah. You were there for the draft. And that's a good segue, because coming out of our cover two, we can now take it to this week's good, crisp interview, which was conducted during draft week. And if you don't subscribe to our YouTube, do it. You should be on our YouTube channel. This is the XFL show on YouTube. But if you don't, or if you just haven't gotten to it yet, we conducted an interview that's been sitting on YouTube since the draft with the president of the XFL, Jeffrey Pollack, and we talked a whole lot about fan interaction and everything the league plans on doing in terms of getting fans involved with the XFL. This was one of the more fascinating conversations Bryant and I were able to have during our time in Stamford at the headquarters, and we're airing it for the first time here on the podcast for all of you. This is XFL President Jeffrey Pollack in this week's Good, Crisp interview. Welcome, football fans. This is the XFL Draft. This is the XFL's YouTube channel. We've taken it over the entire time. Alan and Bryant from This Is the XFL Show, and we are ready to get into some fan engagement because that's what this league is all about. This league's all about engaging with fans. We are fans here ourselves, and we are with the president and COO of the XFL, Jeffrey Pollack. Thank you for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be with you. It's been great to meet you over the last day or so, and I can't thank you enough for what you've been doing and the way you've been engaged with the fan community really from the beginning. It's awesome, and I think it just speaks to the potential of the XFL because there is an audience for more football, and that's what we're focused on providing. But great to be with you.
That's kind of what we saw back in January of 2018. We wanted more football, and we got it with the XFL. So we started this show, and ever since then, we've basically been ending it with the phrase, we're listening, right? Or they're listening, the XFL. So what does that mean? As a fan, what can they expect when the XFL says that they're listening? Well,
I'm glad that you are listening, and we share that sentiment because we're listening too, and we want to listen. Just to step back for a minute, this is all about doing something for the love of football. That's why the XFL exists. That's why Vince McMahon has created the XFL and is funding it and has given us the blessings of time and resources to prepare for the launch. So what we're focused on is bringing that sentiment to life in every possible way. One of our core tenets is making sure that we are a fan-first organization. And one way to be fan-first is to make sure that we're listening to the fan. We're creating opportunities for the fan to let us know what they think. And that's something that we're going to institutionalize in our operations. There's going to be a national body, if you will, for fans to share their perspective and point of view, and that's just one way that we are going to be listening. On another end of the spectrum, I think, as you know, our team presidents who've been out in the marketplace, and some are going to local bars and restaurants and holding, informal office hours and inviting fans, however many there may be, to come and talk and share, and that's at the other end of the spectrum. So it's going to be through both technology and a high personal touch that we're going to engage with our fans, and we already are.
Yeah, the boots are already on the ground, and they're, Bryant's going to every fan engagement with the LA Wildcats, and they look like a blast. I want to know for you personally, Jeffrey, what piqued your interest with the XFL, and the main reason maybe why you got involved?
Well, it really is to do something that I think hasn't been done before in the way that we're doing it, right? And that's a piece of it. My career in sports has been focused primarily on being involved in these unique moments of time for brands and for startups. And this seemed to be a great combination of all that. But what really was the determinant for me was meeting with Vince McMahon and hearing his vision and understanding his commitment to this. And I walked out of there thinking, it would be something I regretted if I didn't do this. And it's just been an awesome experience so far. We have the best commissioner we could have in Oliver Luck. I think we've done a phenomenal job hiring rock stars from throughout the sports and entertainment and technology industries. And now the fun part is, bringing it all to life, and now more and more in real time. What's happened in these offices and in our team offices over the last day and a half has just been extraordinary, as we now have players and initial rosters, and it's all coming to life, and I'm just so honored to be part of it.
A partnership that we've talked about on our show quite a bit is the partnership that you did with Elevate Sports. Can you talk about the importance of having them as part of this journey to help with fan engagement and ticketing and everything?
Well, the Elevate deal was really an indication of how we're attempting to think differently about the business that we create, and we decided that as we look to stand this league up and really launch a 100-year brand, we would be well served to surround ourselves and engage with the best minds in the business as it relates to ticket strategy and promotions and marketing, and that's what Elevate represents as far as we're concerned. Elevate brings with it engagement from the leadership and ownership of the 49ers, not an insignificant organization, leadership and the complete commitment of Ticketmaster, a company that knows better than anyone how to engage the ticket buying public, and they have a long history doing that, and others that have allowed us to benefit from extraordinary executive experience and leadership and thought, and we're very happy with that partnership.
Well, that partnership's hopefully going to bring as many season ticket holders as possible, and if there is a pending season ticket holder out there who's thinking about getting those tickets, what kind of benefits or special privileges will season ticket holders be getting? Or maybe even not in details, can they expect those types of things happen?
Well, let me, before talking about special benefits, let me talk about the most fundamental form of access, right? So if the first tenet of how the XFL is operating is about being fan first, the second tenet is being ultra accessible. That's how we talk about it internally. And ultra accessibility for us has to include the most fundamental form of access, and that is the ability to afford a ticket to a professional sporting event, a world-class professional sporting event. And the ticket pricing, the season ticket member pricing that we revealed a couple of weeks ago, I think makes good on our desire to respond to the fan feedback that we've heard, which is we want an experience that is affordable for families, for fans, their friends, and for people that have never been able to afford a ticket to a professional football game. We want to make sure that that most fundamental form of access is completely obtainable in all of our markets, and I think our pricing structure will help make that happen and makes good on our desire to live up to that expectation that we've set.
I absolutely think it does. We spent two episodes ago, I think, just gushing over the prices because, I mean, it is absolutely affordable, especially when you compare it to any other professional sports league these days. So you guys absolutely knocked it out of the park there. And then also we're hearing about season ticket holders getting some perks and also fans just showing up to an XFL game and getting more than a football, just be a ticket to a football game, experience.
So on one end of the spectrum, you have tickets in every market except for New York starting at $20, and New York they start at $25. On the other end of the spectrum, fans will be able to buy a premium seating experience for $145, right? So it's not just access to getting into the game, but it's also access to, for those who want it, a club experience that they couldn't otherwise afford. And then with all of that, to your point, we're also creating ways to get fans closer and close to the game they love. So right now, if you buy a season ticket membership, you are getting a VIP field access pass. I worked for an NFL team for a number of years, and I can tell you that on game day, the one thing that people wanted more than anything else was to just get on the field, even for a minute and a photograph. And what we're attempting to do is to make that type of experience open and accessible to more people than ever before, because it is a thrill. And I think that being on an XFL field is going to be a thrill. So that's just one way that we're trying to, again, make good on the promise of ultra accessibility.
And you're really, that's, I think, a great way of just reaching out to fans and bringing them into being a part of the team. Actually letting them on the field, you feel like you were part of whatever team you're there to see or support. And I think the community outreach part of this with each team is going to be fascinating to watch grow. Does the league plan on having any local media partners? Maybe with some, we've seen some giveaways already. Some teams are putting together. Is there going to be more of that?
So that's all in process. Our national media partners, ABC and Fox and ESPN. ABC and Fox all have affiliates in the markets that we're in. Our team presidents have already been engaged with those affiliates. Those will essentially be local media partnerships to support what we're doing nationally. And beyond that, stay tuned to see what else we're able to craft in year one. But we're feeling good about where we are and where we're headed.
What about the social media aspect of it all, right? Heather Brooks Carrots and Ryan Gustafson of Seattle, they've gone on Facebook, Instagram, just trying to reach out to fans. Is that something that the league is trying to push hard for the other team presidents to do as well, to get them to interact with people in a much more 21st century type way?
So, there's, I'd say, an open mindset to trial and error and experimentation. And each of our teams really represents, in a way, a living laboratory for what our best practices may end up becoming. And each team president has a different expertise, a different personality, a different point of view about what they think they should be focusing on. And we welcome all of that. There's some prescribed activities, of course, but there's a lot of opportunity for the team presidents to try some new things that maybe they're trying before other teams are trying. And we're not overly regulating that. We're saying, okay, if you've got a great idea and it makes good sense, give it a shot. We'll see if it works. I mean, I think Heather was the first president to camp out at a Buffalo Wild Wings and invite fans. And that wasn't something, we said, go do. It was something she said, hey, I want to go do this. And we're like, great, go do it. And now it's happening across, I think, every market. So there's going to be a lot of, I'd say, market-to-market variance in exactly how we come to life and how we express ourselves. There'll be some things that we're sort of leading from the home office, as I like to call it. But we've hired 8 rock star presidents for really one reason, because we believe they're the right people to crack the code for their team in their market. And there's a lot of partnership and collaboration with them, and we all work together really as one team. That's one of the benefits of this sort of single entity model. And I would expect to see on social media, in live events, in community relations, a lot of different things coming out of each team. And I think you will then start to see in the years ahead a set of commonly embraced best practices for the league and all of its teams.
We had Heather on our show not too long ago, and she said the opportunity to do this with a blank sheet of paper and how you're, how you approach this and the leeway you're giving these presidents to figure out what the best method is for their markets is actually quite amazing.
The League of Yes, as Commissioner Oliver Luck likes to say. The TV partners were announced a while ago, and you've been working with them ever since. How's that been, and how do you expect them to assist you in the goal we've been talking about today with fan engagement?
Sure. I mean, it's been great to work with these companies as our partners in standing up this league. 2 organizations, Fox and ESPN, ABC, that know football so well, know how to present football as well as they do. Fox, I think, in addition to The Simpsons, was built on football, right? And I think Oliver said that to you yesterday. It's an honor, it's a privilege. They're partners to us. They're in it deep with us, and they've already been great collaborators, and we're just getting started. So stay tuned, but I think our telecasts will be great, And I think you'll see a lot of XFL promotion and love coming from the partners, and we're excited about that.
From accessibility on the television, online, getting into the stadium, the XFL.
To an immediate room at headquarters, Alan.
Giving us our own war room. XFL definitely is all about fan engagement. President and COO Jeffrey Pollack, thank you so much for joining us today.
Great to be with you guys. I hope you'll have me back. And again, thank you for all that you're doing. This is the first podcast I think I've ever done, so maybe on a future episode I get to interview you a little bit.
Oh, we'd love it. We would love that.
We'll see.
Well, you know why? They're listening.
That's right.
All right, everybody.
Thank you.
XFL President Jeffrey Pollack there. Our interview with him during the XFL draft. We took a moment to really dive deep into some fan interaction stuff there. And I think by far, Bryant, the coolest thing I took from that conversation with him was just how many, he used the word rock stars, like really how many awesome people they have in each city, quarterbacking the city interaction, initiatives, the marketing, the getting involved in every, like you have been involved with Heather Brooks Carrots. Now you have experienced her awesome personality, and in the 7 other cities, like those are the types of people they have all over this league. Like really innovative, forward-thinking people that I think, are working with Jeffrey Pollack in the league office and coming up with great ideas to reimagine not only the game, but how a league treats its fans.
It was so cool for him to mention that Heather's first, interaction was going to a Buffalo Wild Wings in Carson, California, and I was there for it. It's kind of cool to see the mindset that this league is having towards interacting with fans and interacting with their communities. Really, you hire these presidents that are so familiar with their communities. We talked about it before, and really, there's no rules. I said Jeffrey Pollack is the mastermind behind all this, but in reality, the mastermind's letting everyone else do what they need to do to make this happen. And that was some cool perspective on that end. And then just what fans can expect and the different, how I want to put this, the different ways the XFL is going to reach out to a fan or interact with a fan or allow them to enjoy themselves at a game and not just a football game. We've talked to Heather many times on this show as well, where she's, basically said, this is not just a football game. And you're going to be able to come to this game with the family. You can get 4 tickets for $100 for most of these cities and just sit back and have a great time. Because it's not just going to be a football game. It's going to be an experience that fans have not seen yet when it comes to professional football.
Thanks to Jeffrey Pollack for sitting down with us during our time there at the XFL's headquarters draft week. He was a super busy man while we were there, and he came into our little conference room they gave us and really took the time to give us a lot of insight, and that was absolutely awesome. And we have some more conversations to be had, Bryant. Jake has skedaddled on this week's recording because he's got I think he has like a yard or something. He's helping his grandma or someone. He's a family man. He's a very, very kind-hearted individual, and he had something to do. So with that said, it's just you and I to really examine this super interesting question that popped up on a radio interview with one of the voices of the XFL. It is this week's Hot Read. Hey, football freaks, it's Alan. Just want to let you know about a brand new football podcast that myself, Vince, and his wife, Pam, started. We want more people to hop on board and start listening because we are talking college football on a national scale with a very extreme Pitt Panther bias. It's called the Hail to Pitt Podcast, and yes, we do focus a lot on the Pitt Panthers, but if you just want to hear us talk more football, if you want a place to go listen to some college football talk, check out the Hail to Pitt Podcast, available on all podcast platforms, whether it's Apple, Google, Spotify, you name it, it's out there. Subscribe today, Hail to Pitt Podcast. It is brought to you by Pretty Easy Podcasts, and it is absolutely free of charge. Subscribe and review today. Hail to Pitt.
Blue 58! Blue 58! Go!
Ric Flair! Ric Flair! Pepper, Flip, Caliber. Motown, Happy, Jolly, Drop, Buster, Boomer, Tiger! I think he's got a hound too, Rodney, I think. B-19! B-19 is fucking! Hey, Seattle! Ryan! Orange 83!
Steve Levy will be the voice of the XFL for ESPN when they are covering the league. I believe he's on the Saturday team, correct, Bryant? I mean, we talked about this last week. Steve Levy, who, if you're like Bryant and I and huge hockey fans, you know he's done a lot of good hockey stuff for ESPN. He's been there pretty much almost our entire lives of consuming ESPN content is, early 30-somethings. But Steve Levy will be calling XFL games, and this week was on the Dan Le Batard show and said something interesting and had me thinking, Bryant, that we need to talk about this because really the XFL's success is great for all of football in general. Just the sport itself, I think the XFL doing well is a good thing. And anybody who's a fan of football should be rooting for the XFL as a spring league. And Steve Levy kind of said as much in his interview on the Dan Le Batard show. When asked why the XFL will work, he said, quote, Vince McMahon A, Disney B, Fox C, and I think the NFL wants this to work. I really do, end quote. That is really something to think about, Bryant. The NFL of anybody, as a football entity, it's unto itself. Would it root for the XFL? As fans, we can, but that's a business, the NFL. That's something we need to talk about. Does the NFL really want the XFL to work out and succeed this coming spring?
Okay. Here's what I'll do. I'll do this first real quick to get this out of the way. Alan, do you agree with his order of the first three? I'd almost want to throw an A2 in there and throw Oliver Luck.
Yeah.
A2, right?
You got it. You got it. A1 Vince McMahon, A2 everyone that Vince McMahon has really put into the building in Stamford that's working on the XFL, because like Jeffrey Pollack said during our interview we just played, rock stars.
Yeah, we don't have, all due respect to Bruce Pritchard, we don't have him out here, trying to figure out how to create content for the league before kickoff. So all the people that he has hired, we'll put that up there. All right, the question presented in front of me: NFL. Does the NFL want the XFL to succeed? Yes. 100%. Do I think the NFL wants the XFL to succeed? Absolutely, because it's going to be just another free filter of players that are going to get game time, and the NFL is going to be able to pick apart the league as much as they can, as much as the XFL will allow them, I guess, as well too, going into the NFL. But the reasons behind the NFL's want for this league to succeed does not help the XFL in any way, shape, or form.
What do you mean by that?
So what I'm saying is the NFL wants the XFL to succeed, but for the reasons they want it to succeed, those reasons are not going to help the XFL in any way. Meaning the XFL has the support of Vince McMahon, Oliver Luck, I guess, yeah, Fox, Disney. They have the support of those companies. They're not going to have the support of the NFL. The NFL is going to want them to succeed, but they're going to stay afar and kind of just, they're not going to promote this. Obviously, they're not going to do anything to help the XFL. The NFL wants us to selfishly succeed for their own reasons. I think the XFL needs to stay clear of whatever reasons the NFL wants us to succeed and kind of stay focused on their own game.
Yeah, I agree with you there. The XFL needs to worry about control what you can control. If you're talking about an actual football game, you want to just go out there, execute your game plan. But in terms of the NFL being this just leviathan, monstrous entity that can really influence a whole lot, and if it was rooting against the XFL, that would not be a good thing. But the fact that the NFL might want the XFL to work out is something to consider. I think it's interesting that Steve Levy brings up, because the NFL does have a vested interest in what? Its talent, in players coming into the league and being ready to play. What are those three words that Oliver Luck always says?
Good, crisp football.
Good, crisp football.
The NFL wants good, crisp football, and the fact that the XFL is going to be playing outside of the NFL season and is completely self-reliant and entity unto itself, developing players. The NFL should want that to work out because that means that there will be more good football players out there for the NFL maybe to one day employ. And we do know that the XFL has a pretty positive outlook when it comes to players in their league eventually one day becoming NFL players. The XFL, Oliver Luck, everyone involved have not made any bones about that being a reality. So with that considered, and considering that this league is going to really give not just the league tape to look at, but players reps, I think the player development aspect is huge. And oh yes, you bring that up, rules, broadcasting innovations. The NFL already once upon a time took from the XFL, learned from it, and enjoyed the fruits of the XFL's labor back in 2001, Bryant. So the NFL should have a vested interest in that because if it's good, as they say, steal it.
Again, the reasons the NFL is invested with the XFL has nothing to do with the success of the XFL, right? The XFL should, kind of keep its own. Well, hold on. Let me think. You know what? It actually, maybe the XFL should take this mindset of let's try to be a minor league to the NFL and let's just put all of our eggs in that basket and just hopefully they'll make us a part of them.
No, because that
works, right?
Is not a real business, as someone once said.
That's why the XFL has to stay clear of the NFL, because as much as you would like the partnership and the success at the NFL, like you're right, that is this huge giant of a machine that just keeps rolling and raking in the money every season. You have to stay clear because you're not the NFL. You're not trying to be a minor league. The NFL hasn't had a minor league for a reason. Because it's not that it doesn't need one, it just doesn't want one that it has to support. And so the XFL is going to stay on their own game plan. That's what Vince McMahon has kind of said, that we are ourselves. We are going to do our own thing and succeed on our own terms. We're going to live or die based on what we do and not what others do. So yes, does the NFL want the XFL to succeed? Absolutely. Just not for the same reasons the XFL would like to have, in terms of a partner, I guess you could say, because the NFL is definitely not that.
I mean, I'm trying to come up with like an analogy that will highlight why this makes sense for the NFL to want the XFL to be something that just is totally self-sufficient, self-reliant, but also something that they can be informed on, that they can take from, or maybe just think about, work unofficially in tandem with. And I think I've come up with this. So I don't know, say you're someone in their early 30s. What the ideal scenario for you, for say an early 30s something who maybe in the United States is going to get married and plans on having kids, the best case scenario is to have a friend who's in a similar situation that has a kid before you, and then you see what they do, and maybe you could draw on some of the mistakes and successes they have, and then implement your own plan so that you're more prepared as a parent. Not to get too meta here, Bryant.
Sounds like a very familiar situation.
Smart, right? That's smart thinking, right?
It is smart thinking.
So in this case,
that's just life.
To be blunt, in this case, you're the XFL and I would be the NFL. Because you are planning on having a kid soon. And I'm going to watch all the things you do wrong and then maybe in a couple years enact my own plan.
Good, crisp parenting is what I'm looking forward to in the spring of 2020. You're right, Alan. It is true, though. You want to learn from other people's experiences. I won't just say mistakes, but the XFL in 2001 had mistakes, but they also had some positives. And I try to mention that to people every once in a while, that the XFL did some things that the NFL is doing now seamlessly. They took them and they ran with them. The XFL this time around is going to be doing the same thing and innovating the game and bringing things that the NFL maybe has thought of, but really just could never incorporate for whatever reason. And now the NFL is going to be watching. They might be watching from a distance, but they are going to be watching. And the XFL the more it succeeds, the more this good crisp football analogy or saying
Good crisp
to life,
football.
the NFL will listen even more.
And if, you feel like, well, there's no official interaction between these leagues, there's nothing to really, link them and how this relationship will work and find out whether or not the NFL actually does want the league to succeed. I think there is a way to do that, and that's by looking at the players who already were drafted by the XFL and are also currently on NFL practice squads. Observing the way these players' trajectories go, what path they go on, how they're treated by the NFL, how they're treated by the XFL, what kind of issues arise with these certain players, that should tell us a lot, Bryant. I mean, there were three first-round picks by the DC Defenders that are currently on NFL rosters or practice squads, right?
Yeah, 3 first-round picks that the DC Defenders had are all on a practice squad. Now, it's not to say that they're not going to be on the field for the DC Defenders, in February, but that's some talent that you never know what could happen, and that's a good sign, I guess, for the success and the partnership. Well, I don't want to say partnership, the success and the motive for why the NFL would want this, the relationship, but I would also say the motive of why the NFL wants this to succeed.
So these players, Rashard Davis, the first pick wide receiver for DC, Kyle Murphy, a tackle, James Vaughters, linebacker. Watching players like that and the litany really of other players that are currently on NFL practice squads or rosters that were drafted in the XFL, watching how they're treated, how the NFL goes about, maybe recognizing their tenure in the XFL and reciprocally the XFL recognizing their NFL status. That'll tell you a lot about how these leagues are going to work together unofficially, whether or not the NFL really wants the XFL to work, cares if it works. And I think Steve Levy is kind of saying the right thing here, because who wouldn't want players to be able to develop and get better? Who wouldn't want an entire other league to also experiment where maybe you can't afford to experiment if you're the NFL? There's a lot of things to look at in that regard, and I think that was pretty wise of him to say that, even though he also, in this interview with Dan Le Batard, Bryant, said, I really don't know too much about the XFL in terms of the rules and what I'll be doing as the voice, but he's super hyped and ready for it, and that's probably because the rule book's not officially out. Someone needs to get Steve Levy the show. Do you think? I doubt he's listening. I hope he has time to, but if anybody knows Steve Levy, voice of the XFL for ESPN, get him the link to the show, because we'll inform him on a bunch of stuff that's going to be going on with the league he'll be calling.
Oh yeah, if you need some information and you need to keep up to date with the XFL, there's been 95 weeks of episodes that you can be listening to right here, Steve. So I'm gonna tag him about every day this week to see if he actually catches on, Alan. But you're right, the league has played stuff close to the chest just because they don't want. Is it close to the chest or close to the vest? Close to the vest.
I say vest.
Vest? Is it best? Close to the vest. When it comes to releasing information, because they don't, the league. Stop it back there. The league doesn't want. We put it nicely a couple episodes ago. Basically, is the league doesn't want all this information out there because they don't know, 1, if it's final, 2, if it's actually good, and 3, if they're going to go with it. So why put this rule book out there? I understand why Steve Levy doesn't have that much information. I'm just hoping that he knows enough when it comes to kickoff in February, which I have no doubt that he actually will.
Yes, he should. It's a patience thing is all it is. And that was a really fun discussion, I think, that stemmed from listening to that interview with him. And it was super short, just him talking about, what he's going to be doing with the XFL. And that kind of sparked me to say, let's talk about this to you guys this week. Fortunately, we couldn't have Jake for the convo, Bryant, but it sounds like a poll question to me. Is the XFL's success ultimately, just as a spring league for the sport of football in general, a good thing? Should if you love football, should you be rooting for the XFL? I mean, that should be a resounding yes, I would say. Steve Levy said it, and hopefully people at the NFL offices even are saying it. And we'll see what you say as football freaks as well. At XFL Show on social media, on Twitter will be the poll question. Brian, another show, 96 episodes, plus some bonuses
96 episodes.
Extra stuff too in the books.
That is a lot, Alan. We'll put up that poll question that you mentioned. And also, you're right. We should have had this conversation with Jake and maybe even Vince. We'll probably throw that on the Patreon if we get some time with them this week. Go check that out. Patreon.com/This is the XFL Show. 95 weeks of episodes, Alan. We keep churning them out. We didn't even really get to the supplemental draft that's supposed to be happening at Friday of this week coming up. So many things to be had. I'm sure we're going to get some information on that as well. You're right. We did have to cut some things from this show. Man, what are we going to do with all this information? XFL.com. Make sure you're checking that out. YouTube. I always tell people, go to YouTube. This is the XFL Show. To get all these different things that we talk about. You could have already listened to the Pollack interview if you went to our YouTube channel. But hey, it's here anyway, so just go and check that out. Subscribe. We do a lot of live gimmicks there too as well.
Next week, supplemental draft and more good crisp interviews coming your way. A whole lot of excitement here on This is the XFL Show. Bryant's been alluding to it. Eventually, the feed is going to be, getting more for you there. I mean, there's going to be more shows, flat out, like 2 a week, maybe more, because, I mean, we could have done a whole show about, Pep Hamilton, I think, has a good inside game that Cardell Jones was not ready for, and we could have done an entire show about that. Coaches playing their quarterbacks in pickup basketball. But the XFL.com is, like, seriously super fun. Like, we're ending the show. I'm going to go there and just kind of click around and have some fun looking at what's on there. Want to thank Jeffrey Pollack, of course, even though it was weeks ago, our interview was just super illuminating and awesome to sit down with him. He is a crazy busy man. And want to thank you, the football freaks, listening to the show, telling your friends about it. Anybody ever strikes up a conversation with you about football, or you do it yourself, and you mention the XFL, and someone wants to know more about it, please tell them about the show and tell them to subscribe on any podcast platform of their choosing and follow us at XFL Show. We have huge plans from next week and beyond, because we are 12 weeks from kickoff and counting, and we're going to ride this thing all the way through with you. For Bryant, for Jake, I'm Alan. This is the XFL Show. Remember, they're listening.
Thanks for watching and listening, XFL fans. Don't forget to tell us what you think in the comments below, or even better, hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all things XFL. Check out some of our other videos and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at XFL Show. This is the XFL Show is a production of Pretty Easy Podcasts.